My name is James Mathers, a cinematographer and founder of the Digital Cinema Society. If you're not familiar with DCS, it's a nonprofit educational group with a mission to help keep filmmakers current on motion picture technology. I'm here today to talk about a relatively recent innovation in motion picture technology, 12K capture. I will share my experiences testing the Blackmagic design URSA Mini Pro 12K camera in hopes of revealing both the challenges and potential benefits of shooting 12K. But first, allow me to share some footage from the URSA 12K. Rather than shooting charts and scrutinizing scopes, I'd like to evaluate new cameras by taking them out in the field and using them as I would in the kinds of work I do as a cinematographer, what I call a road test. So I went about shooting test footage to share, just like I had with the rollout of the Red 1 and later the Varicam V35. I wanted to see if the URSA 12K lived up to my expectations and verify that a 12K workflow was practical for the kind of work I do. As with my previous presentations, this one was not sponsored by the manufacturer. In fact, Blackmagic might not like everything I have to say. I've never had the chance to meet Grant Petty, the CEO of Blackmagic, but I was invited to a virtual press conference back in July of last year where he introduced the URSA Mini Pro 12K. It sounded pretty interesting. Basically, leapfrogging over the expected move to 8K by designing a Super 35 sensor that can natively shoot 12K as well as 4K, 6K, and 8K. Instead of the traditional bare pattern single sensor design, this camera uses a symmetrical pattern readout that allows the full 80 megapixel 12K sensor to natively output various resolutions without cropping or computationally intensive scaling. The idea is to allow the user to select which resolution best suits their needs without affecting the field of view. The online press conference also included some beautiful sample footage photographed by John Brawley, ACS, a DP whose work I have come to admire on shows such as The Great. I decided there and then to take the plunge and buy an URSA Mini Pro 12K. At less than 10 grand for the body, the price was right, and I was hoping it would check off a lot of boxes required for my next generation digital cinema camera. So I put in my order with B&H the very next day. Most of the package finally arrived in October. It was hard to spend money when there was so much uncertainty in the world, and I honestly still don't have any imminent projects to shoot with the camera. But I want to be ready when things do get rolling again. Since I'm looking to the future, I want a camera that's versatile and not limited by the constraints such as resolution. I've owned many great cameras over the years, and a few are still in storage that nobody wants to use anymore since they're only HD, or God forbid, standard def. So while I don't expect to be shooting too much 12K, having the ability is something I find desirable. Who knows what Netflix may demand down the road. I also like that it shoots B-RAW, Blackmagic Design's RAW format, which I have found to be a really solid and flexible codec. Since I have a significant investment in Super 35 glass, I also like that this camera fits into my current lens and camera support infrastructure. With camera in hand, it was time to start shooting. My good friend Conrad Hunziker joined me for the unboxing. He's an accomplished cinematographer after spending many years as a sought-after DIT. He was with me shaking out the bugs of the Red 1 in 2007 and wrote a software program known as R3D Data Manager that was for a long time the go-to way to handle Red footage. His vast knowledge of both camera and computer technology make him an excellent resource as these disciplines merge in digital cinematography. But all Conrad really wants to do is shoot, so I'm lucky he would put on his tech hat and help me get going with the new camera. We set up the URSA and pipeline to post via Resolve. I'm still amazed that Blackmagic gives such an incredibly valuable and all-encompassing software away with every camera they sell. Currently, it's the only software that can handle 12K B-RAW, but since this was my first experience with it, Conrad, who's worked with it for years as a DIT, helped me get started. As mentioned, I like to test cameras the way I'll be using them, which means photographing people. Since most of my work is narrative, supplemented by some celebrity interviews and documentary assignments, I needed to round up some on-camera talent. I heard that a friend's daughter was looking to get some experience in front of the camera, so I reached out, figuring that we could benefit each other. I would have a model to photograph, and I could give her some experience, along with some footage to start creating a reel. She was eager to participate, and I was also very pleased when her mother, who was a veteran actress, wanted to join her. The pairing could not have been more perfect. Shelley Broughton, being of African American heritage, has much darker complexion than her daughter, who's mixed race, Luna Van Dalhorn. Since I was testing the camera, I decided to put some of the safety protocols I had become aware of on our recent COVID documentary to the test in a celebrity interview situation. As mentioned, this is one of the types of assignments that help me make a living between movies. However, this kind of work has pretty much come to a standstill during the pandemic. So I wanted to see if I could take advantage of the 12K capture to help create a safer shooting situation. In order to keep the number of people down on set, we set up a single camera in a locked-off two-shot, so as the interviewer, I was the only one left on set. However, we were still able to achieve close-ups by reframing in post with digital zooms to give the appearance of multiple camera coverage. We basically zoomed into what would mathematically still be 4K. I was pretty happy with the results, but our colorist, Keith Rausch, did caution that he needed to do a little extra cleanup of the close-ups. Although the resolution holds up, the grain structure and change in the noise pattern can be noticeable, especially if it is at all underexposed. So there is a limit and there are trade-offs. However, Sam Nicholson, ASC, a cinematographer, VFX producer, and owner of Stargate Studios, explained how the extra resolution of 12K is extremely valuable in creating virtual production backgrounds.
When anybody says to me, why do we need 12K, I say, what's the resolution of reality? And we're trying to recreate reality here. And, you know, we have a lot of workarounds for that, but if you have, the higher the pixel count you have, the further you can go in. Because you're subsampling a 12K image, you're literally reshooting it and pushing into it. So how far can you push in on a 4K image? Probably to 2K. How far can you push in on a 8K image? To 2K. How far can you push in on this image? Way in. You can push in to 2K and still hold resolution and not start seeing a decay in the image. So we have actually put 4 times 12K, 48K is what we're actually shooting in all the directions. We put it together, and then you can look any direction you want and push in and out, and you have total flexibility in terms of how you block your scene.
Another way I used the flexibility of the extra resolution was to reframe and stabilize. The shots we grabbed out the window as we were driving around the city at night needed to be both reframed and stabilized in order to make them usable. You can easily see the value of comparing these shots. This is the original. This is reframed and stabilized. This is the original, and this one is stabilized. So there are some advantages to be had in acquiring a 12K, but at what cost? It does obviously require some extra storage and transfer time, but I found that with the proper gear it really was manageable. Recording 12K B-RAW, the only format recorded in camera, allows for several variations in compression in vastly different file sizes. There are 2 basic encoding schemes, constant bitrate and constant quality, and within those different compression ratios you can choose from. The constant bitrate option is set to never exceed a specific data rate, no matter the content, making it easy to understand the relative amount of compression being used. It's designed to give you the best possible images within predictable and consistent file sizes, with compression ratios from 5:1 all the way up to 18:1. Constant quality, on the other hand, preserves image quality by completely removing the upper data limit. That means complex frames will be recorded at a higher data rate to preserve detail and maintain quality. Only constant quality ensures quality levels are not compromised. For our test, we recorded 24 frames a second 12K B-RAW in constant bitrate at 5:1 compression. We recorded on 4 Angelbird brand 256 gigabyte CFast cards. At that setting, each card gave us only 7 minutes of record time, so efficient data management was required to get us through the day's shoot. I knew this going in, which is why I came prepared with some really fast download options. OWC was kind enough to provide one of their Thunderblade 8TB Thunderbolt 3 solid-state drives. They advertised transfer speeds up to 2800 megabits per second read and 2450 megabits per second write. OWC also provided one of their Thunderbolt 3 Pro docks, which has dual Thunderbolt 3 ports, 3 USB 3.1, eSATA, DisplayPort, 10 gigabit Ethernet, as well as a SD and CFast card reader which we use for all our transfers. At a time when computer I/O connections are changing at such a rapid pace, these docks are really an essential piece of kit to allow for the connection of legacy gear that might only be a couple of years old. For example, the late model MacBook Pro I used on this project only had Thunderbolt 3, which none of my other gear features, so we would have been lost without this dock. I didn't have a precise way to measure our transfer speeds handy, but I can tell you that it was backing up our cards to the drives at roughly 2.5 seconds per gig. That's only about 10.5 minutes for a full 256 gigabyte card. So that is one potential roadblock you can cross off the list if you're thinking about shooting 12K. And now that the external recorder is sorted out, use of USB-C, NVMe SSDs will give a lot more recording duration. It should be a good addition to the package, allowing for more economical recording of 12K, but I've been getting by okay with the CFast cards for which there are dual slots. I've invested in two 960 gigabyte Samsung drives, which should give me over 26 minutes each of recording duration. Having such efficient on-set data management allowed me the opportunity to have our DIT open the files and resolve between takes, apply various LUTs, and then push them around a bit so I could get my bearings. The camera being so new, there are not yet any dedicated LUTs available for the URSA 12K, but Resolve allows you to create your own and import them back into the camera. I honestly haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'll be sure to before my next major shoot. This is just one of the many benefits of having camera and color management software created by the same company, although BRAW support is quickly being adopted by other NLEs such as Premiere and Avid. And in any case, we finished this project in aces. I created a rough cut, and the same day I dropped the drive off to the Burbank headquarters of Roush Media, I got an email with the Frame.io link to the assembled cut for my approval. Although the Frame.io system allows for frame-by-frame comments on the timeline, I didn't need to take advantage of that ability since everything looked great. They had applied a scene-referred ACES color transform, which looked better than what I had chosen for my work print. And it had the added benefit of getting everybody on the same page for the next step in the process, the HDR color grade, to be handled by master colorist Keith Roush, owner of Roush Media. Although Roush Media is headquartered in Burbank, California, Keith Roush is currently in Atlanta setting up a new satellite office. So a live remote color session gave me a chance to try another technology I've been eager to experience. It was also another way to maintain safe social distancing during the pandemic. They were able to stream the output of the Baselight color system to the display in my home using the VLC media player. I was then able to communicate via Zoom with Keith as if I were in the same room for the color session. I have to say, it went off without a hitch. In short order, the masters were ready for me to pick up back in Burbank just a few hours later. In summary, I would say the Blackmagic design cameras have come a long way since they were first introduced less than 10 years ago with the pocket camera. Now with this latest sensor technology, I think they've taken another giant leap in quality. The URSA may not be ready to satisfy all my camera needs. However, to have this level of quality and flexibility in a package that's so relatively affordable will make a great solution for many owner-operators. I don't expect to shoot much 12K, but I think having this ability is still important, not just as a hedge against obsolescence, but for VFX and virtual production plates, reframes, and stabilization, to name a few. I tried to look at the challenges and potential benefits of shooting in 12K for this evaluation, but most important factor is really how it looks. As my grandmother used to say, the proof is in the pudding. I think the camera looks great, but you can judge for yourself, so now that you have a little background, I'll end this presentation by playing the test footage just one more time.
Hi, I'm Shelley Broughton. I'm an actress currently living in Los Angeles. I've had 40 years in the business and hoping for 40 more. And this is...
I'm Luna von Darlern. I'm Shelley Broughton's daughter, and I'm an aspiring actress who just graduated high school and currently has a job at Coach. How you doing?
Do you know where my daughter is? She should have been here by now.
Oh, Mommy, I am your daughter. Did you forget?
I thought you were somebody else. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I've got a joke to tell you. Woman goes to a doctor. She says the doctor tells her husband, the doctor says I have the breast of a 35-year-old woman. Her husband says, what did he say about your 60-year-old ass? She said, he didn't mention your name at all.